Alright, let me get a picture of the thing. Hey everybody, we going on tour. This is the Grapecreek. Hey everybody, this is the Grapecreek wine vineyards. So sit and watch while I'm updating my Facebook. Look, I just got the thing off. Hey you too. This is bad. All that is Vineyards line, and that is the facility itself where they sell the wine at. We're going on a tour, and we're going to do some barrel tasting, which means that we're going to take straight from the barrel that the wine is being kept in, and we're doing a tour of the property. It's pretty good. It was $20 a person. You also get a glass to take home. So hopefully you get to see a little something. What you're seeing right now is the whole property. The property is pretty big. Is that somebody's house? That there's construction going on, so I'm guessing this is the building that they store the wine in. Oh, let me get that on.
Look up on here. And we'll work our way very quickly over to the inventory room where it's cool. All right.
What you doing now? Let's with your phone. Huh? What you doing now? Let's with your phone. Yeah, I was trying to check in, tell people going on the wine tour. Things of that sort.
We're taking a little out of sequence because it's so hot.
All right.
But this works out pretty well where it's cooler.
You're going to be able to see all that stuff. It's dark.
Oh, yeah. This is kind of like heaven with the white walls and the white ceilings and the white boxes, and it's cool in here. Smell just a little bit of wine, and you get your sleeping bag out, you know. But we welcome you to Grapecreek Vineyard. The vineyard itself has been here since 1984. Let me take a drink and I'll put this down. Mr. Sims, who was the original owner, came out here after retirement from the oil business in Houston and started the first 100-acre farm here, put in a nice peach orchard, and then also started planting 24 acres of wine vines. Now, it takes about 5 years for your vines to mature, to start making the clusters of grapes that have the right quality in them. And so during that time, of course, he was building up the business, building up the facilities, getting everything ready. After 5 years, you're able to pick your grapes, and the first time they made wine was 1989. So, thus, the beginning of the winemaking process here at Grapecreek. Now, in the 100-acre farm here, we've got the winemaker living on the property. The original owner's house is now our tasting room. So we took that house and kind of made it into the Tuscan-style villa feel. And so in the last 4 years, we've used that for our tasting and event center. Now, what you see in the front when we go around the corner to go down into the underground cellar is kind of our original place that we started. The place where the offices were, the tasting room, the chemistry room, all that. So it's pretty meager compared to where we are today. Over the 27 years, we've had to replant our vines twice. They either have contracted a Pierce disease, which is a very, it's a naturally occurring virus that is just really, really harsh to the vines. And it somehow or another prevents the roots from absorbing water. So it pretty much takes them out almost immediately. So everything you see is only 5 to 6 years old. It's only been planted in the last 5 to 6 years, because everything has been replanted. This is our third planting. Now we got all of the new stock in 2005 from New Mexico. There are folks who what's the word, where that's all they do. They focus on it. I'm having a senior moment here. Anyway, that's kind of their thing that they do. Specialize. There we go. Thank you very much.
All right. For you.
Oh, thank you. I've done all kinds of things today, and I don't have trouble. Yes, they specialize in growing the stock and getting it prepared. So what we've got right now are 4 different kinds of grapes. When you drove into the vineyard and through that road, that is the Chenin Blanc, and that's the first time that will come off. We will have our first estate Chenin Blanc in over 10 years. We haven't had an estate wine in 10 years, so this is our first one. It'll be released Friday night at our wine club party.
Wow.
And the ones in the back are a nice Italian Montepulciano, which will make a really deep, purpley, bluish type style wine. The Agnellicos are out here on the other side of the production facility. You'll just get to peek out at those. They make a nice sort of medium red wine. And then the Petit Verdot, as we're going back up the knoll, there'll be a very distinct square. Grapes are planted in squares, and so there's a Petit Verdot there that'll make a nice red wine. So the Chenin Blancs are only white at this point. Last year, when they got our first mature harvest, we got about 12 to 13 tons of grapes. Now, we use over 300 tons of grapes for our wines right now. So we're making about 12,000 cases a year. So besides what we got last year, we had to purchase 300 tons. And so we will be doing more and more of that as we grow to 24,000 cases with the new facility as we get it going, up and going. So that's pretty fun for us. Now that still makes us much smaller, but that's only about half the size of Becker. Becker is much more commercialized. They've got a bigger distribution system. So we're still doing most of our selling through the store here, through our wine club, and through some distribution online, that type of thing, and a little bit into Central Bar. Oh, you're a wine club member?
No, I just love wine.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I was, local.
You're a wine kind of woman. All right, very good.
Yeah.
But you can get us in Central Markets and Specs in Austin and San Antonio, and then some in the Houston Specs. But only our white labels. We have 2 kinds of labels. We have a white label, which you can typically see on our inventory here as a basic table wine. That's some of our whites, or most of our whites, our sweets, and 2 of our reds. Then you'll notice on the ones down the row are a black label. Those are our bigger, richer, bolder wines in the reds, aged longer, sometimes aged in French oak, which is much more expensive. And so those are driven and designed with the black label in mind with a nice copper etching on it. So those are our more expensive wines. Right now we're building up our inventory. This time frame is the time where you really are, the wines are being finished off and they're being bottled. The fall is, in the late summer is when you start to take your harvests. We have to do an August harvest here because the heat is usually so intense, and because the sugar levels have risen just to the point where they want them to be at about 22 or 23%. Now, BRIC is a test that they will do on it, BRIX. That is the name of a German scientist from the mid-1800s who was one of the first ones who developed the kind of that hydrometer process where you could actually measure the sugar density in liquid. And so we still use that today to figure out what the sugar levels are. And so once you get to that 22% and the heat's so high, the sugars are just perfect. They take the grapes at that point. Now, as soon as you take them, it's a rush to get them to the tanks, which I'll show you here shortly, because they've really begun to deteriorate pretty quickly. But we have 60 boxes on a pallet, so there's 12. Remember, there's 12 bottles in a case and 60 cases on a pallet, so you've got a pretty big chunk of dollars sitting here on the ground. Yeah. So it makes it fun. Now, this is taking you a little bit out of sequence. This is our bottling machine. This will also be moved to our new facility here very shortly. But we can produce 22 bottles of wine per minute. So it's moving along pretty quickly.
In a minute.
Yeah, it's not like the Budweiser and the Coke ads, you know, where these big seas of cans and bottles are moving all around. But we can get 22 bottles a minute out of this particular machine. Now, we do still have a human being loading the bottles onto the rack here, and so the little conveyor belt runs along, and the first thing it does is it has to have a shot of nitrogen gas. Nitrogen gas creates a bit of a vacuum, and it's cold enough to where it kind of eliminates any airborne spores that might be left in that bottle. So once it comes through here, it gets a shot of nitrogen, and it jumps over to the filling tank. The filling tank, all of these little arms have a little needle in them that spew or spray the wine in a 360-degree motion. Now that needle goes down into the neck of the bottle, and it spews out. So it's eliminating some of the bruising. You've heard of bruising or bottle shock. That helps eliminate some of that harsh process that the wine goes through. So it sprays out on the side walls, comes down to the bottom, and it fills up from the middle. So that's pretty fun to watch that happen. Now, it gets about, the typical milliliter size for a bottle is what? Does anybody know? 750. Very good. So this machine, it fills up with maybe 751, 752. So this machine right here ensures that you've got just the right amount in it. So another nitrogen process occurs here with the pressure. It's shot into the bottle, the needle goes down into the liquid with the wine. Now, you're trying to eliminate as much oxygen in your liquid as possible. So by shooting more nitrogen into your wine, that helps eliminate those parts per million down to about 2 or 3. And then it also, pressure-wise, will measure and consistently either take off or add some wine to make it 750 every time. Now from there, this is our bench where you can see our corks. They're always preserved in a plastic